takes it in overtime. Brady can shot, breakaway shoots, scores!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon and I am your host. The day is finally here. I can finally make the Alex DeBrincat trade video, as the Ottawa Senators today have traded Alex DeBrincat, meow man. Oh, I'm going to miss saying meow. Alex DeBrincat is being dealt to the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for forward Dominik Kubalik, prospect defenseman Donovan Sebrango, a conditional 2024 first-round draft pick, which we'll get into the conditions in a second, Detroit's 2024 fourth-round selection, and of course that was all in exchange for forward Alex DeBrincat from your Ottawa Senators. Now, here's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to break down the actual trade. I'm going to look at all the pieces involved in the trade, and then I'm going to give my take about how this overall trade went down and how I feel about it after it's all said and done. What I will say right now is we heard a bunch of excuses from Alex DeBrincat from beginning to end. At the beginning, it was new ownership. Oh, he wants to see a new ownership. Then it was money and want to secure a long-term commitment. And now it's, well, he signed a 4 or 5 year deal in Detroit, so clearly he just did not, or his family just did not want to sign in Ottawa, which is well within his right. But it just sucks to see because, I mean, this guy fumbled the bag. I'm sorry. He absolutely fumbled the bag. Ottawa was offering Alex DeBrincat nearly $8 million. Okay? Almost $8 million. Detroit just signed him for 4 years at $7.875 million per year. He will be 29 years old after that contract is up. So kind of a bit of a risk here for Alex DeBrincat. He's banking on himself. There is a 16 no trade list as well involved in that contract extension with Detroit. So I guess in a way Alex DeBrincat gets his wish. But look, even if I say that Alex DeBrincat fumbled the bag, and I stand by that, he could have made more money in Ottawa, in an aspect, he didn't fumble the bag at all. He still got what he wanted. And at the end of the day, Alex DeBrincat gets his wish. He always, clearly, as I already mentioned in this video, wanted to sign in Detroit in his home state of Michigan, and he got that wish. He's making a little less money, sure, but he gets to play where he always wanted to play. And obviously that means the world to him. That's why he took a pay cut. That's why he took less, term on the contract. And so I think this is a win for Alex DeBrincat. Obviously, he's going to have a much more heightened role in Detroit as well, which we'll talk about later. But overall, Alex DeBrincat is the big winner of this trade. Obviously, he makes good money here, 7.875. Once again, it's a little less than, Ottawa's, offering him, and he probably could have got on the open market a year from now. But at the same time, it's job security, 16-team, no trade list, just under $8 million, which, by the way, $8 million or just a little under $8 million, people would dream to make that per year, let alone their entire life. So he's going to do just fine financially. But once again, this is a win for Alex DeBrincat purely because he got what he wanted. He gets to play in Detroit, and he just clearly never wanted to play in Ottawa. And that just sucks because Ottawa gave him more money, reportedly on the table. And the group here is way more talented than Detroit. But once again, family over anything, and his family's in Michigan. He's born in Michigan. He's from Michigan. It makes sense. So I'm not hating on the decision. Obviously, that's a personal decision for Alex DeBrincat. It's just really unfortunate as a fan that such a talented player just didn't really want to stay here. And Ottawa, they got a decent return here, which we'll talk about later. But Ottawa was kind of put in a situation where they're just not going to win no matter what. So moving on in this video, after this segment here, I'm going to break down each player acquired for Ottawa and Detroit and discuss what both teams are getting in the respective packages, and as well my final thoughts. But I just want to break down the condition on the first rounder coming back Ottawa's way. So the initial condition on the first round pick is as follows. The Red Wings will have the option of sending their own 2024 first round selection or Boston's 2024 first round pick to Ottawa. However, if the Bruins' 2024 first-round selection is an eventual top 10 pick, Boston will have the option of retaining the pick and transferring its 2025 unprotected first-round selection over to Detroit. The Red Wings, if that happens, will then have the option of sending that draft pick over to Ottawa or the 2024 draft pick to complete the deal. So essentially what that means is if Boston flames out, doesn't make the playoffs, gets a top 10 pick, they can protect that pick and can kind of put that decision in Detroit's hands. So essentially, if that scenario plays out, Boston gets a top 10 pick, Detroit can either decide to give Ottawa the 2024 first round selection or a 2025 unprotected first round selection. Obviously, I would hope the 2025 unprotected first round selection will come to Ottawa. That would maybe have a better chance of being a top 10 pick. I don't know, probably reading into that a little too much. That is a condition on the first rounder. And it's great. Look, Ottawa got a first round pick. I'm not upset, once again, about the original trade for Alex DeBrincat. I would do that trade any day of the week still. No doubt about it. Only giving up a first, a second, and a third for a multi 40 goal scorer is not something you can do every day. I still make that trade every day of the week. And we got a return here where essentially is what we gave up for Alex DeBrincat. So with that in turn, I'm not upset whatsoever. It just kind of sucks that, once again, he didn't want to sign in Ottawa. But overall, just looking at what we gave up for him and what we got, it's basically a wash. You got a middle six winger in return out of this whole fiasco. So I guess it's a win. I don't know. I don't really know. I think the big winner of this trade is Detroit. They got a multi 40 goal scorer under $8 million per year for 4 years. So good control there. And Alex DeBrincat's also the winner because he gets to play where he always wanted to play in Michigan with the Detroit Red Wings. Ottawa, I'm not going to say they're the winner. They didn't win by any means, but they certainly could have done far worse. They got a first-round pick and a middle six winger who scored 30 goals before in the National Hockey League and has scored 20-plus goals before multiple times in the National Hockey League. Solid middle six winger here. So overall, decent trade for Ottawa, but let's break it down further by taking a look at each player involved in the package. Let's do that right now. By the way, before I break down each player acquired in this massive package, frankly, for Alex DeBrincat, I just want to say his first game back in Ottawa is going to be very early in the season, October 21st at 1 o'clock. It's a matinee game in Ottawa. Ooh, baby. You already know the Boo Birds are going to be out for that one. That's going to be a hell of a game. I might have to be there. So just letting you know, Alex DeBrincat's first game back in Ottawa, October 21st. Now, who is Ottawa getting in this package? Well, firstly, they're getting a first and a fourth round pick. You can use these picks to acquire more NHL talent, or you can use these picks, actually use them in the draft and restock the prospect pool, which we desperately need to do, to be honest with you. A first round pick never hurts. Having two of them potentially next year definitely never hurts. So it really is great to get a first round pick in return for Alex DeBrincat, especially when Ottawa, frankly, had no leverage whatsoever. So the fourth round pick is something you can just attach for whatever in another package, but the first you can really use to get a good prospect or a good NHL player. So that's a valuable asset to get for the Ottawa Senators. Now, Dominik Kubalik, who's 27 years old, is an interesting one here. Last year, he got 45 points, 20 goals, 25 apples in 81 games with Detroit. He has 161 points, 82 goals, and 283 NHL career games. So essentially, he's a solid middle six forward, and he would absolutely excel on the third line with really Greg and Shane Pinto. I think that'll be a dominant third line, but he could be an absolutely solid fill-in top six winger when needed as well if a player goes down with injury. But once again, with Dominik Kubalik, he's a former 30-goal scorer, so he has a goal-scoring pedigree, loves the one-time shot, as you can see on your screen right now. So he has a laser shot, which is great. He could absolutely fill in there as well, which is great. I can absolutely see Kubalik on the second power play wave, no doubt about it. I can definitely see that on the right hash mark. So I think that's a solid add there for Ottawa. Kubalik is a guy that's going to absolutely probably score 40, 50 points next year, 20 goals at the very least next year, which is very similar, no offense to DeBrincat, but to what DeBrincat brought to Ottawa last year anyways. DeBrincat scored, remember, 66 points, 27 goals. Kubalik is around that range, and he's making only $2.5 million. He is a free agent after next year, though, so he will not only want a raise, Ottawa will have to re-sign him if they want to get some more value in this, trade. It's not going to just be a rental type of deal here, just like what happened with Alex DeBrincat this past year. I'd like to avoid that. I would bring back Kubalik for a couple more years for sure after this year, but just looking at it right now, solid middle six forward. He could play on the second line. I would prefer him to play on the third line, though, because I think that bottom six desperately needs scoring. Kubalik can absolutely bring scoring to that bottom six and on that second wave of the power play. And then we'll talk about this later, but a Tarasenko or Thomas Tatar would be great to bring in for the top six. I think those are two more well-established top six wingers, but if Kubalik ends up in the top six, which is definitely possible, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, I think that's fine. Once again, he's a 30-goal scorer before. He scored 20-plus goals a couple times in the National Hockey League. He's a hammer of a shot, so it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I think Ottawa, no offense to Kubalik, would absolutely be downgrading in the top 6 if they didn't replace DeBrincat with a better player and it was only Kubalik stepping in there. Once again, that's no disrespect to Kubalik, but if Tarasenko could come to Ottawa, obviously you bring him in and have Kubalik on the third line. That's just way better for the depth and the scoring ability for throughout the lineup. Because my big concern is, hey, if we keep Kubalik in the top 6, that means we couldn't really afford to bring in any more, free agents like a Tarasenko or Tatar, and the bottom 6 might have massive issues scoring again next year. So if Kubalik's in the top 6, yeah, I think he could be fine. But I would definitely prefer him in the third line because I think his scoring ability is desperately what this bottom 6 needs. But we'll have to see what happens. We'll talk about that later in this video. Now, the other player Ottawa acquired is Donovan Sebrango. He's a 21-year-old left-handed defensive prospect who was drafted in the 3rd round a couple years back. He played professionally last year between the AHL and the ECHL. In the AHL, he put up 7 points, 4 goals, by the way. A little bit of a goal scorer here in 39 AHL games, and 12 points, only 1 goal in the ECHL in 23 games. I've never seen the kid play, but he is from Ottawa. He's an Ottawa native, so you love to see that. He could become a decent bottom pairing two-way defenseman in the future. We will have to wait and see, but he has played for Team Canada before at IIHF tournaments. He's played in, professional hockey. This is a kid to watch potentially for Belleville next year. We'll have to see what happens with him. But Elite Prospects had to say this about him. He can spin against pressure, work his inside edges on the blue line, and generally shows as nimble in small ice situations. He's not afraid to use the center of the ice to effectively transition up ice. Sebrango was decisive, took the right angles, and won puck battles on defensive zone retrievals. I like what I hear, but we'll have to see him this season with Belleville or in the ECHL. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But Sebrango is an Ottawa native. You always love to see an Ottawa native come back to the Sens organization. But I will say this right now, and I'll discuss this again in my overall thoughts. I have nothing against the kid, and I'm excited to see how he can play. But Kubalik, this is my big concern. Only getting Kubalik as the lone NHL-ready player in this trade. With the cap situation, Ottawa only has roughly $5 million or so with Pinto the sign still. Getting a Berggren would have been really nice, for example, from Detroit in this trade, because that would have given you 2 NHL players. You wouldn't have had to worry too much about filling the top 6 and the bottom 6, like Ottawa has to do right now. So it's no slant towards Sebrango. It's just kind of the way I'm unfortunately seeing things, where, in my opinion, this is the reality, where now, by only acquiring 1 NHL player in this trade, you're going to have to replace either somebody in the top 6 or the bottom 6. And that's going to be really, really tough, especially with how cap struck we are already. But welcome to Ottawa, Sebrango and Kubalik. I think Kubalik is going to be a solid player for Ottawa. I can see this guy scoring 15 to 25 goals next year on the second power play as well. Maybe in the top 6, definitely in the top 9. Solid player there. He's still 27 years old, so still young as well. Not an old player by any means. Decent contract. So I can't complain about that. It's just Sebrango, decent defensive prospect, I guess, but it would have been much nicer to get more immediate NHL help right now. But hey, maybe there's another move in the wings here to see some cap space relieved for a Tarasenko or Tatar to be brought in free agency. Now, lastly, before I give my overall thoughts and wrap this thing up, Detroit is getting Alex DeBrincat, of course, a solid multi-40-goal scorer who put up 27 goals last year but hit the post 10-15 times. He missed the net many times as well. This guy just could not catch a break last year with Ottawa and still put up 66 points. You're easily getting a fantastic player with an elite shot and even better playmaking ability. And by now, already, he's easily one of Detroit's best players. So look, you got Larkin, you got Seider, you got Raymond, and now you got, of course, Alex DeBrincat. So for Detroit, you're getting a player that is going to be on your first line, on your first power play, probably your leading goal scorer. And for Ottawa, you're getting something in return in a situation where, frankly, it was a lose situation no matter what for the Sounders. So my overall thoughts are very simple. We got a first, we got a middle 6 winger, and an unwinnable situation, and that's pretty decent. But I'm just happy this is all over. Finally, I got to film this video, and finally, this trade fiasco, all this drama is over. So now let's focus on signing Shane Pinto and maybe bringing in one of Vladimir Tarasenko and Thomas Tatar, one of them, if we can clear some cap space. So that would have to mean we have to trade Joseph or Eric Brandstrom or somebody like that, because otherwise, this is going to be the lineup moving forward going into the season, because we just don't have the cap space to bring in Tarasenko unless he wants to sign for like $2 million, which I highly doubt, considering it's been reported he wants between $6 and $7 million. So we'll have to see about that. But overall, this is why I'm not ecstatic about the deal. I knew the Sens would have a tough time winning the deal, but not acquiring two NHLers in the package, Berggren or Soderblom, for example, with our limited cap space and likely inability to sign Tatar or Tarasenko due to that, potentially leaves a massive hole in our top six. So welcome to Ottawa, Kubalik and Sebrango. I'm excited. Firstly, Sebrango is an Ottawa native. Kubalik is a former 30-goal scorer who's 27, has a lot of potential still left. So I think in that aspect, Ottawa wins on top of getting a first-round pick. But just now, no matter what, you have a hole in the top six or in the bottom six. With our very, very tight cap, it makes me nervous as a Sens fan. So I'm really interested to see what happens here with Pierre Dorion and what he does with the remainder of the free agency period. And besides that, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm sure the Sens fan base is completely split on this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below as always. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you all soon. Go Sens, go.